All right, so here's 5 steps to permanently dismantle your limiting beliefs so that you can build solid structures of empowering beliefs. So this is a short presentation, short video on exactly what process we can do to get this done immediately. So first and foremost, you need to understand how the mind really works. And so the way that the mind works in order to help us to create our results, in that we act as human beings, we act from, first of all, having our beliefs, thoughts, and ideas that will shape how we feel, creating an emotional state. And from that emotional state, if we feel inspired, if we feel motivated, if we feel depressed, we're going to act in a certain type of way in terms of the behavior that we demonstrate. And once we behave in that type of way, that is going to create a particular outcome or result. And so the beliefs that you have, the thoughts that you have, the ideas that you have is the cause of the effect, which is the outcome and your results. So we have to address this first and foremost. Now, this is a little bit more of a detailed explanation as to how this thing works. And what I want you to focus on over here is that every single one of us creates this internal representation of our reality that's based off of the external experiences, events, and information that come in from our 5 senses. And what we do with these internal representations is that we distort, we generalize, and we delete information. And this creates our language, traits, attitudes, values, beliefs, decisions, memories, time, and space. Why do we do this? Well, it's because if it's a survival mechanism. It's how we've evolved as human beings. If there was a person who could not focus on the road, for example, whilst driving, and they were just taking in everything else that was going on, they would be completely distracted and they wouldn't be able to focus on what it was that they needed to do. So this is why we have these internal representations that act as survival mechanisms to help us going forwards. But this doesn't necessarily mean that how we perceive the world is what the world actually is. And so we have to appreciate that our mind is not the true reality of what the world is. It's not the truth. It's just what is true for us. So what I want to show you right now is how poor people get their results. Okay? Because remember, it's beliefs to feelings to actions to results. So this is what happens for poor people. And look at this acronym over here as well. Poor means passing over opportunities repeatedly. So as I'm doing this presentation right now, as I'm going through this video, you want to be writing down as many notes as possible, because there's some gems that I'm going to be dropping over here on this call. How poor people get their results is that they'll have that painful experience, right? They'll have some sort of trauma that they're going through, which will influence how they feel and think and believe around a particular area. Because from that painful experience, it will give them an interpretation. Then from that interpretation, they'll create these generalizations and make conclusions about how to see the world, right? And this is what then manifests as the limiting belief, to which they have their skewed thinking and then start to make decisions, but they make these decisions around fear. And if you think about what fear is and how fear works, we either fight, we flight, or we freeze when this adrenaline kicks in. And so when that adrenaline kicks in, most people will either run away from opportunities, which is why that poor mindset is passing over opportunities repeatedly, or what they're going to do is they're going to fight the person who's actually trying to help them instead of looking to use them as a resource. And then from there, that will translate into misguided actions which take them further away from where they actually want to be. And how rich people get their results is completely opposite, because what RICH stands for as an acronym is residual income creates happiness. And this is what they understand, is that in order to have that residual income, the opportunities that they must take are going to be the ones that are presented to them, which are different from the traditional 9-to-5 jobs and things like this. And so in order to shift our mindset from scarcity to abundance, from that poor person's mindset to the rich person's mindset, we need to be able to change the emotional state. We need to be able to change into a gratitude attitude where we have the abundance loop instead of a fear-based mindset and a scarcity-based mindset, which is just a loop of creating anxiety, poor choices, and then finally negative outcomes. We have to shift this to having gratitude, peace of mind, and wise choices and positive outcomes. And so this is what happens when you have your limiting beliefs. Your limiting beliefs right now is, imagine that you're in a car, okay? And you have your vehicle that's trying to take you to wherever it is that you want to go. We call it Paradise Island because it's just anything that is your dream. It doesn't have to be an actual physical island. Paradise Island for you might just be sitting at home with your family and your kids and getting to spend a lot of time with them, right? So the Matrix, what I mean by this is that mental prison that you live in, to which you have that fear holding you back from experiencing everything that you want in your life. So when you have the car as an example of the vehicle that can take you to where you want to go, in the car, you're going to need a sat nav that's going to give you the correct direction for wherever it is that you need to be moving towards. And so we need to be making sure that the direction that we're getting from the sat nav is the right direction if we want to go to Paradise Island, and it's not the wrong direction. It's going to take us to the Matrix. So what happens when we have our limiting beliefs is that the limiting belief gives our sat nav the wrong direction. And I'm talking about a sat nav here, but you have to understand that your body is a vehicle. Your body representing the subconscious mind, your body is a vehicle, and the sat nav is your emotional guidance system. That if you feel a certain type of bad feeling and pain in a certain area, you are going to avoid experiencing what the pain is signaling to you was painful. If you feel the opposite, you feel pleasure about something, then you're going to run towards that. And that's the satellite navigation giving you direction. And so with limiting beliefs, notice that this is only going to take you towards a life of limitation, which is the experience on Hell Island. But when you have empowering beliefs, you have a life without limits. And that's when you get to experience Paradise Island. So limiting beliefs, as they're represented, is, I want you to think about it like it's a structure. It's a chair, for example. And so I'm sat on a chair right now, but I have no fear. I'm absolutely certain that this chair is going to hold me up and has been for the last few days. Why? Well, because I have certain legs on the chair that make it a strong structure. So with this chair over here, I have evidence for all of these legs that are going to support the chair to make it strong, to keep it sturdy. And what human beings do to continue on collecting evidence to support these limiting beliefs is that we use something called a cognitive bias. These are tendencies or patterns of systematic errors and deviation from rationality. We also have one of those cognitive biases, which is a confirmation bias. That is the tendency to seek out and prefer information that supports our pre-existing beliefs. And so there's all this evidence that there is in the world, but this is also the evidence that we ignore. It's the majority. We simply have the evidence that is the evidence we believe in the middle, and that's around our beliefs. Our beliefs is not necessarily the truth of the evidence. And so 90% of people's limiting beliefs actually look like this. They're not just chairs and stools that have 4 legs. They have so many, and it's keeping the strong structure that becomes very difficult to actually overcome. And so the 5-step method that I'm going to show you here today is a foolproof method that you can be using in order to overcome these limiting beliefs. Now, step number 1, how this works, is that you need to dismantle the structure. You dismantle the structure by attacking the right part, aggressively disproving the evidence that was collated after going through a particular experience. So for example, if your limiting belief was, like mine was, I'm too introverted to sell, you can dismantle this by finding the falsehood in this belief. Because the truth about the best salespeople is they are the best listeners. And so being extroverted as a salesperson would actually make it more difficult, not easier. See how we disprove that limiting evidence that was supporting the limiting belief. So to change your limiting beliefs to empowering beliefs, we must replace the evidence that was gained from the experience to support the new structure. Step 2 would be you need to repeat this process until you experience a collapse. You need to dismantle every bit of evidence that's holding the limiting belief up by attacking the evidence instead of the firmly held opinion itself. You weaken the strength of the opinion, which breaks the structure, allowing room for the empowering belief to influence your behavior. Step 3 is you got to create a new foundation. And like you probably heard that story, that fable of the wise man who built his house on a rock. This is exactly what you need to do. Use the stones of truth, which were the very rocks you used to dismantle the previous structure, as your foundation for your new empowering belief. For example, using the same limiting belief, I'm too introverted to sell, we can create a new foundation with stones of truth as our evidence to create a new foundation where the new evidence is introverts have the power to listen better than extroverts, which is needed in sales. Step 4 is to plant new seeds. Now that you've removed the weeds from the soil, it's time to plant your new seeds of an idea into the unseen depths of your subconscious. Bear in mind, there will be many birds that will eat some of the seeds and wind that will blow them away. So plant hundreds for at least one to grow. Each seed wants to be a new empowering belief that will help you foster new results. And step 5, let your desired fruits emerge. Now that you've planted new seeds of an empowering belief, watch as your results change forever as you continue to water this seed that will blossom into you getting to reap the rewards of sowing the right seeds. So this is the 5-step method that you can use to overcome any limiting belief. And so if you need to rewatch this video, get it done, make sure you take notes, and let's see you turn some of these limiting beliefs into empowering ones.